Ticket area Weuna
Labour Party put your guy. Now Olumide Akpata. See as we dey like beans and rice. Labour Party, I will never leave your side.
Centigrade here in Abuja, 46% humidity. So what a morning it is today on Sunrise Daily. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. Well, here, this section here, not a lot of sections look like this. But, nonetheless, yeah, some areas are that tight owing to some construction works going on this morning. So this happens to be one of those areas, though.
Indeed, Galatimawa Junction in Abuja, home to a very heavily residential area right here in the city. Good morning and welcome. Well, some people will say it was a disappointing night, but for some others, at least you escaped with your heart intact. He who lives to play will play another day again. So welcome to the program this morning.
Are you escaping with his heart intact, huh? He's one of such.
Indeed. And now we take them more seriously. Those who say, oh, you know what? I don't watch. Maybe I watch via audio to protect my heart. Now we know why. I mean, we have now seen some tragic evidence that this can actually go south. But we thank God, at least we got to the final. That's something to celebrate. Good morning once again. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusuf.
Silver is better than bronze, Well, this is Lagos, the Ojota end of Lagos. When you come into Lagos, this is the first major park you land if you're commuting by public transport into the city of Lagos. That road there is the one that leads all the way to Maryland. Of course, the overview right there of the Ojota part. Incoming there is from the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and headed straight there, you're going straight to Ikorodu. Good morning. This is Lagos. Humidity is put at something in the region of 94%. It's 27 degrees at this time. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Yeah, so what a morning it is after last night. But nonetheless, of course, we had to give it to the boys. They did what they could and what they had to do. So, yeah, we'll always welcome them back. Anytime, any day, after all. Did you expect them to get to the final? True to yourself, did you? Did you actually? Okay, I'd like to hear what you thought about it anyways. We'll focus on that today on the program as well as we progress. But today, well, one key item that we're bringing to you that will be happening today is, remember the several questions about NYC forgery here and there. But today, a senator, yes, he's a sitting senator as a matter of fact, he will have his day in court. The federal government is going to be arraigning him over, certificate forgery. So this is not the only case. I mean, there's some others that will come up later in the year, but this particular one, wow. So
if you're not losing your seat over elections and you're losing over the fact that you forged a certificate, I mean, that's even more shameful, isn't it?
And you wonder why.
It just means you're a very dishonest person.
And you know what it takes to even contest for office in the country?
A secondary school certificate or primary school?
So why do they find it that difficult to actually get with the program?
You know, go and write a GCE exam. I'm going to...
And some lawyers say you don't even have to pass. Prove that you're attempted. Oh, boy. Well, that's one key thing anyway. So we'll see how that turns out, Ayo.
Well, yes, Chamberlain, it's a very, very touching one that you just mentioned there. Just attempt it. Gosh, meanwhile, you're going to be superintending over people who have doctorate degrees, professorial degrees, masters, many of those at the same time. Anyway, but part of the conversations that we're having is on business headline today will be the Reformed Electricity Act increase supply. Will that happen? The Reformed Electricity Act that has already been signed into law, I think. And a number of people are asking questions whether or not that is going to increase supply. More disturbingly, perhaps, that will also come on stream in the conversation. Will it increase cost of electricity? Well, I guess we'll wait to see on Business News, on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily at 10 a.m. today.
All right, so we're going to take you through some of the dailies here this morning. I will start with Vanguard newspaper today. Higher prices loom as businesses rely more on loans to survive. Borrowing from banks rises 52%, 1.8 trillion naira. Interest payment rises 332.3% to 589.62 billion naira. And you see at the bottom strip here, Edo Guba, Benin Chief, Ikimi, Senators, NLC Chairman, emerged PDP delegates, LP aspirants form alliance to secure ticket. So quite a number of things going on there. And that is Vanguard at the moment.
Well, taking a look at the front page of the Abuja Inquirer this morning, they have this lead headline as hardship deepens, fears over protests in Abuja. You also see right there, school attendance drops. It's one of the lead stories on the front page of the Abuja Inquirer.
Well, the front page of the Nigerian Observer this morning has a picture. I'm not sure whether to celebrate it or to ignore it. But let me go to the main story of the front page of the Nigerian Observer this morning. Investor confidence soars as businesses count gains of Edo GIS. That's the lead story of the Nigerian Observer. There's a picture there that you may be interested in. Chamberlain.
As hardship, protest over high cost of living turned the heat on Tinubu as pressure mounts on him to fulfill campaign promises. Ex-APC chair, president's response to Nigerians' challenges weak. Oh, okay. I'll need 5 months' salary to watch AFCON live. Law prof laments. New Telegraph.
Well, take a look at leadership this morning, and they have this on the front page. Abandoned vehicles litter seaports over high tariffs. Importers suffocate as clearance costs soar. To clear, average model Toyota Corolla costs 3.4 million naira. U.S. to lift entry ban on vessels from Nigerian ports. So that is also right there on the front page for you. You also have a number of other stories, some of which we'll come to much later in the paper review. That's it for the leadership newspapers.
The Guardian newspaper is drawing our attention to something a little troubling. Exiting oil firms pollute Niger Delta with 36.1 million liters of crude in 8 years. That's the lead story of the Guardian newspaper this morning. The story is on page 6, and you'll find some infographics right there on the front page, and the years and the number of liters of barrels that were spread, that were spread on the Niger Delta over the past 8 years. Wow. That's the lead story of the Guardian newspaper today.
As federal workers in 90 MDAs yet to get January salary. So probably they need to focus on that and see. That's Daily Trust today.
And I'm taking a look at Daily Independent. Now they have this for you. Paying remittances in Naira will worsen FX crisis. That's according to experts. And you also see at the bottom there, we're determined to achieve food sufficiency for Nigeria, attributed to the president. We'll leave it there for Daily Independent.
Blueprint newspaper today has something, I would say, interesting. Adegboye, Ubasani, what do they say? Nigeria needs urgent spiritual help. We'll get it right. What does that mean? Beg citizens to give our leaders a chance. Well, find the details. Okay, that's Adegboye, not Adegboye, according to that headline. But find the details on the inside, continues on the inside pages of the paper.
Look at this Nigeria. Insecurity. National Assembly working on legal framework to create state police. Senate leader says it will help in combating the activities of bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists. That's a big one on the front page there today.
And Nigerian News Direct has this. Amid hardship, IMF urges federal government to completely halt payment of fuel, electricity subsidies. That is right there on the front page. Are they looking for trouble?
I don't understand. But
what sort of trouble are you looking for, IMF? Well, you find details on page 10 of the paper, Nigerian News Direct. Let's leave it there for the paper.
Well, my attention this morning, guys, is drawn to the Daily Trust newspaper today. Federal workers in 90 MDAs yet to get January salaries. Hey, what's today's date again? February 14 is Wednesday, and that's Valentine's Day. Can we show some love before then? 90 MDAs, federal workers in 90 MDAs yet to get January salaries. That's very, very concerning, because a number of people would say that's like an open door for all kinds of corrupt practices. Because, as we say, neighbor abhors vacuum. So if people don't get their pays as and when due, aren't we asking for something more? Particularly when high cost of living is right there in our faces and they have to commute to the office and back every day. I don't know. Well, who should be doing this? Which MDAs are these? You may want to find the story on page 6, but this is definitely concerning, guys. That's my take from the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper.
Well, the front page of this Nigeria sticks out. Nothing new here to almost everybody in the country, but the only thing is people don't want them to play politics yet again with this one, because we know that the last time the bill came before the Assembly, it fell through. They said, oh, we didn't know that was what it was going to be about. We'll reconsider it. They didn't. And then the governors, both up north and down south, eventually agreed, saying, okay, well, yes, you can, but states that cannot afford it, well, they have to find a way. But for those who can afford it, should be allowed to go ahead with it. If they say that others can't afford it, shouldn't stop every other person from doing so. It doesn't mean if one or two people are not, or states are not able to go about it, every other person should not. Because, I mean, at the moment, what they say now is that they're considering a legal framework, so it will help gathering of local intelligence about activities of bandits, kidnappers, terrorists, etc. Intelligence component has always been a major missing link, and now that we're facing this kind of challenge, they think the only way, at least one of the ways forward, is reorganization of the security architecture, which may start from policing. So if you have multi-layer policing in the country, it might just begin to address some of the key issues. And for all the fears that we have, at least let the country debate it. Let all the arguments come forward, let them table them, let the country see the merits and the demerits. And then, because some people think that there's no solution, let everybody talk about it. That's why it's a democracy. Ideas have to contend, and the superior one should have the day. And not because of one fear or the other, everything, we just keep policing the country from the center. Several people have said, look, we can't move any further. We'll just be dancing around in circles and we'll never get anywhere. So I think it's about time.
It is indeed about time. One of the things you also cannot miss on the front page of the dailies this morning is the fact that, you know, there's a continuing mourning of the passing of the CEO of Axis Bank. That is also right there on the front page of the dailies. Take a look at the Abuja Inquirer. It's right there. You also see the front page of Leadership newspaper. It also has it. Access Holdings, how Wigwe's successor will emerge. On the front page of Abuja Inquirer, you have Saying Goodbye to Herbert Wigwe by Alex Oti, that's the governor of Abia State. You also see that on a number of other dailies. Rain, wintry weather caused the crash. So people are still trying to figure out precisely what happened. The NTSB, or that's the United States, like our own AIB now, have already come out to say that they're going to be investigating the immediate cause of the crash. They will know that maybe in about 6 weeks to 3 months. But the detailed cause of the crash is going to take an investigation which will be about 12 to 24 months. So we'll be looking to see, you know, just what happens. But in the meantime, there is a void, and that void needs to be filled. And I think that, you know, people are still sending out their condolence messages. That is right there on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Our hearts to the family of the Wigwe's and all those who were involved in that crash. We also understand that Mr. Bolu Ogumbanjo was also in that particular crash as well. So our condolences to the entire Access Holding family and also the country at large, because when you lose a titan like this, it is also the country's loss as well. I'll leave it there for the review of the dailies this morning. Kimberly?
Yeah, so that ends it with a look at some of the dailies here today. But people out there, just be careful wherever you are. You know, there was a fire last night in Lagos, at Elegushi. So thankfully the fire was put out, but clearly caution is the watchword here. And so response, the agencies that are in charge also need to see how they can improve on their response time to incidences such as this one. So thankfully it's been put out. So they're still investigating, trying to find out what was the cause of some of these, because we've seen many of these kind of cases which you just wonder what they do collectively as a state. How do they respond to these kind of scenarios? But thankfully there's no news, and good news too, no life was lost in the matter. So hopefully a lot of caution is advised. All right, so we're back in just a moment and take you through some decisions that are probably may go down in the National Assembly. That's what we'll start off with here today. The Electoral Act is a plan to amend it, so we'll be hearing from the mover of that motion, so don't go away.
Ovaltine kyakkyawan zaɓi domin yara masu basira.
Big tech wasn't really here. What have they seen in the past 10 years, which is making all of them want to put their HQ here?
If you're a business that sees itself growing global, we'll definitely need some sort of like boost. We need to tap into those existing networks that these big tech companies will provide.
Is there a downside to big investment in Africa? Okay. is a tricky question.
We want to be like Amazon, we want to be like Google. Like, this is not, we are not looking to sort of be just another player.
For me, big tech is something highly controversial. I see the value of it, but I also see that Africans should stop playing second fiddle to some of these organizations and have the confidence to start building our own technology.
We've seen how we are using the limited resources we have to solve real problems. They've seen indigenous tech startups achieving things that took them years to figure out.
Begins with a motion of urgent national importance on security in the Federal Capital Territory. Lawmakers are worried about the increased spate of kidnappings in the nation's capital.
They thought that since the compulsory registration of and linking of national identification numbers by the federal government, there has never been a time it was deployed to tackle or address the pressing and scary state of insecurity in the Federal Capital Territory or the nation at large. Further worries that since criminal elements in and around the Federal Capital Territory are speedily evolving from the norm to advanced techniques of criminality, the security agencies of government ought to urgently move to digitalize their operations to return the Federal Capital Territory to its safest haven.
Next, the House considers a bill to amend the Electoral Act. Sponsor of the bill, Honorable Francis Waive, believes that certain concerns observed from the 2023 general elections must be quickly addressed.
I pledge your indulgence to consider another amendment that I propose. In the 2022 Act, the matter of electronic transmission results was not definite. I think that we are the lawmakers. We are the ones that make the law for the country. I think we should not make a law that will be vague, that will be interpreted differently by different courts of law.
In the meantime, the delay in the issuance of national identity cards has caught the attention of lawmakers, prompting an investigation.
What is that the Commission headquarters and its state counterpart have been found to be ineffective in delivering the national assignment to the people, particularly in releasing the national identity card due to the government neglect of operational activities and directive for the benefit of all Nigerians.
Similarly, an investigation is to be carried out by the House Committee on National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, following the ban by the agency on the production of alcoholic beverages in sachets and small bottles in the country. The Green Chamber is worried that the ban could lead to job losses in the country. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
All right, so let's get right to it. We've got Honorable Francis Waive here with us. He is the sponsor of that bill, which is going to be debated. At least it actually started.
Yeah,
anyway,
reading.
So they'll continue with that. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we had some of the highlights. So just take us through it now. So we've seen some of what you have highlighted, you read on the floor there, but just give us a background to why you think it's about time for this one and what you seek to achieve with this.
Yeah, we've just come out of the litigations and the by-elections that came forth had been concluded. And one has been listening to constituents and people across the country express their opinion on the implementation of the 2022 Electoral Act. And being an active participant, somebody who went through the process, particularly, I was in the 9th Assembly. I know the intent when we drafted the 2022 Electoral Act. And then going through the implementation, I could see the difference, the defects, so to speak, that was in the law. So I thought that being in the 10th Assembly, it's my privilege to bring that up on the floor for lawmakers, also in the National Assembly, to take another look at the 2022 Electoral Act with a view of curing every defect that is there. For instance, when we were dealing with it in the 9th Assembly, our thought was that results will be transmitted electronically. We even toyed with the idea of electronic voting, but that didn't seem to fly. I remember that INEC had to be invited and people from NIMEC had to be invited to talk to us about that possibility. And there was this talk about some areas of the country not being able to support the electronic voting. But we concluded on transmission. And in fact, the INEC guideline seemed to support that. All their discussion on television showed that it was going to be electronic transmission of results. But what we saw was that they don't happen, and then the courts, relying on the fact that the INEC guidelines were subsidiary legislation, as it were. In fact, even the Electoral Act is subsidiary to the ground norm, which is the Constitution. So on that basis, INEC was able to beat that idea of not transmitting results electronically. So this time I want the Electoral Act to be specific, to be clear and precise, that results from every unit will be electronically transmitted. This would completely do away with collation centers where most of the magic happens. It would completely do away with what was called the incidence form, which manifested itself in another way in the 2023 election. Another thing I seek to achieve is the issue of accreditation. INEC had told us, both in their guidelines and their public discussion, that no accreditation, no voting. BVAS was the game changer. And that was what all of us believed in when we went into the elections. But going there, we found that several people who were not accredited, they voted. So this proposal, amendment I'm bringing in also encompasses that. No accreditation, no voting. Now, the import of that is that you can't beat the BVAS or whatever electronic means. So the law now should state clearly that accreditation will be by electronic means, clearly, not by any other means determined by INEC, but by electronic means. Let it be specific, so that at the end of the 2027 election, so to speak, one tribunal in Jos will not give a different interpretation to the law, and another tribunal in Lagos will give a different interpretation to the law.
So when you say electronic means, what specifically do you want to happen?
Well, what happened where they put these things on IREV? Results assigned by all the party agents were snapped.
I mean accreditation.
Accreditation.
Yeah, you want it to be by electronic means.
By BVAS, that's what I mean. And if you look at what happened in 2022, most of the votes recorded, they didn't go through BVAS accreditation.
2022 or 2023?
The election was in 2023, but the law is a 2022 law. That is the challenge. That BVAS accreditation should become a matter of law, not the option of INEC or the courts.
So what about the reasons they gave for inability to be accredited with the BVAS? How are you factoring that in?
You know, you can always give an excuse to do whatever you want to do. We all went through this election. There are 904 polling units in my constituency. Some of them were in the riverine areas, the rural areas. But all my agents were able to snap the results and look for the nearest place where there's network. And they forwarded to me. So I had all my 904 units or near that on my phone. If that can happen within my own network, why can't INEC do that?
We'll come to bit
and
by
that
bit.
is what the law intended, and that's what it should be.
But in addition to that, are you also considering, because since you talked about accreditation electronically, ensuring that they transmit results electronically, as they stated in their guidelines, but not with the Electoral Act, are you also considering, because there's a question mark now on the voter cards, we're spending a lot of money on elections. Next year, we might spend more, for the next cycle of elections.
You're right.
And we'll have to have better results every time we spend more money.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. So, today, several agencies and institutions tell you, to do anything now, you have to come with your name. So, why can't we vote with the name? Let the name replace the voter cards. So we'll stop spending money like that.
I completely agree with you. In fact, during the public hearing, you know, my amendment bill to the Electoral Act has been referred to the Committee on INEC and Electoral Matters. So they're going to do a public hearing, and I believe that these kind of ideas will come in. And that will support one of the amendments I'm bringing in. Many of the names on the voters register are ghost names, man. Many of them are dead. Go through your unit and just look through. You see a dead relation on that list. Although during revalidation every year, every electoral year, you are told to go and point those out. You know, but are you going to point somebody's brothers out? You're going to get into trouble. What I have proposed now is that every 10 years, there should be fresh registration of voters. Fresh registration, so that we have a brand new register. It will also solve this problem where we say only 20% thereabout of registered voters turned out. You know, I know there's voter apathy, but the truth here is that that register contains some names that should not be there. So if there's registration every 10 years, you will find that problem solved. I know that some children will get to voting age in every electoral cycle, of course. There will be that room for registration and re-registration as an ongoing process before, you know, every election. But every 10 years, as a matter of law, the previous register must be declared useless, null and void. And a new register, you know, and talking about cost. I believe that if all the 5 elections, the presidency, the Senate, the rep, the governor, and the State of Assembly, if all of them are held on the same day, we save 50% of the cost we go through in a general election.
It's interesting.
Because if you can do 3 elections in a day, what stops you adding? It's just only the other 2 ballot papers.
Well, some people disagree with you. I mean, when they look at what is happening, when they saw what happened with the by-elections, and the fact that, you know, it was just strictly, you know, the elections of members of the National Assembly, some of the results were very different. They say that there is usually a follow-on effect when you're doing a presidential elections with National Assembly elections. You find out that most people don't even know who their National Assembly representatives are, or those who are angling for that position. And they simply thumbprint whatever party they thumbprinted for the presidential for the National Assembly. So when you suggest that we put everything together, some people already even say, let us even put them apart. Let the National Assembly elections hold on a separate day so we actually know who the real representatives of the people are.
Yeah, it's the beauty of democracy. Everybody would have their say. But from my experience, if we do all in one day, we cut the cost 50%, number one. And then number 2, the bandwagon effect is gone. I know what you're talking about because, for instance, in my constituency, there's a particular party that nobody knew who their candidate was. But because there was this popular presidential candidate, everybody was just voting the 3. And so that,
bandwagon effect
if you're talking about. If they ever had a candidate for Ugele North, Ugele South to do federal constituency, which I don't even know if they had, and the name of the person, but they have got 20,000 votes. Now, the issue here is that even if you spread it 1 per year, you're still going to have the same thing. So you go on an aggregate scale of preference. What do you want to do? Because that bandwagon will always be there. But if you do all in one day, the likelihood drops. And then you get a more credible result that is nearer the wishes of the Nigerian people. But by the time you stagger it like what happened the last time, you find that people now learn, so you can do without beavers. Boy, I'm going to make sure I win by all means in the state and elections that are coming up.
Tell us about that doing without beavers, because that wasn't exactly what we saw in the presidential elections. Where did that come in? Because you were talking about incidents form rearing their heads. Where did that come from? Well,
the incidents form all over the country was there, although it was not physically filled. But if you check all the results that are being displayed for the 2023 elections, take each result for each constituency, whether the presidential or the Senate or the House of Rep or the governorship, you will find that you take how many are on IREV and how many were declared. You see the world of difference. So incidence form has come in without being called incidence form. And that is what I'm trying to cure by saying that no accreditation. If Beavers does not accredit you, you have no business voting.
So you are reaching that conclusion from the results?
Yes.
Are you also seeking to scrap collation centers? Because you are talking about electronic transmission. You must still have collation centers at different levels, shouldn't you?
No, collation centers become...
rigging centers.
No, they are already rigging centers. But if you have electronic transmission of results, collection centers will become...
transmission of results to where? Is it going to be national?
To the INEC
headquarters?
No, it's the portal.
Okay.
The IREV, you post it there. So when I go to the INEC portal, for instance, to IREV, I don't look for a constituency in Sokoto or Lagos. I go to Delta and I look for my Ugele North, Ugele South, and Udu. And I go there and look for Udu, so-and-so constituency unit in Udu, Ugele, so-and-so unit in Ugele, so-and-so unit in Otu Jeremy. I pick out those ones that are mine, and I'm able to total it. Even a constituent that doesn't live here, that is in England or America or South Africa, can go to that point and then be able to determine right where he is the winner of the results.
Sadly,
of the elections.
They're not the people that are going to be, I mean, it's not me or you that will be declaring, you know, whoever it is that has won an election.
Yes, it's INEC.
It's still INEC.
But it must be based on the results.
You must have a collation center where these things are done, and they must be at separate levels,
yes.
Which was what INEC had said, that,
yes.
you know, it's still going to be transmitted manually, but that we will have an electronic backup. And that if, you know, anything should go on with what we're getting, there was a discrepancy, they would go with what was there electronically.
But that didn't happen. They didn't go with what was there electronically.
In fact, did we even know whether there was anything there? that was the problem. But the point I'm trying to, because when you say we'll do away with collation centers, isn't that a little misleading?
No, when I say we'll do away with them, the way they are right now, collation centers are presently the place where figures are juggled. Where 100 becomes 1,000, you just add a second, a zero at the end. This time, collation centers will simply be where you do the arithmetic. You look at all the units in that word and you total, which will be the same figure you will get for where you do it from anywhere. You total it and then you write the word results. Then that again, you transmit electronically until you don't get to the constituency level. So it should give you the same result as you go on. But what has happened now is that at the unit level, what you get as result, if you total it, is different from what you get as result at the ward level. Then when you get to the constituency level, what you get as result is different because at each collation point, zeros are being added at the end. But what I'm advocating for is that the collation centers should just be mere arithmetic centers, where unit 1 plus unit 2 plus unit 3 will equal the same thing, whether you are doing it at the collation center or in the private residence of anybody, any citizen. That's what I'm advocating. Otherwise,
let me just read
that collation taking place.
This, I think that what you're speaking to is the Fourth Amendment is section 60, subsection 5 of the Principal Act. And you say is to provide as follows with the proposed amendment underlined. 5. The presiding officer shall transfer and or transmit the results, including total number of accredited voters and the results of the ballot electronically. Now, I see there's underlining transmit and then also underlining electronically. Why?
Because that was not as definite as I'm proposing it now in the 2022 Electoral Act. So it was left at INEC's discretion. Now I don't want it to be at INEC's discretion. It should be a matter of law.
In addition to that,
INEC must abide by.
I've heard several people also propose we shouldn't just limit it to just transmitting. It should be encrypted transmission. When you encrypt that transmission, it's difficult for somebody along the line to hack and manipulate those things. So when it's going there, even if they have several servers that can duplicate those results, you know that what you're getting is an encrypted format, and it must be so spelled out. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, what you are saying is a technological safeguard. There's nothing wrong with that, but you see that will agree with whatever the candidate has gotten from his agents in the various units.
Because they say that.
So, but the INEC one must be encrypted in such a way
they're saying that
is the authentic one. I agree
if
with
you
that.
limit it with just transmitting, it could defeat the purpose of you transmitting if they can manipulate what is being transmitted, which is not, that's why you want to correct this. So that what they're transmitting is the result that is authentic from the polling units?
Yeah, what you are saying, there are two sides to this. The first is that at a public hearing, this will be one of the things we'll want to bring in before we come up with the clean copy of the amended act. But that notwithstanding, that fine copy that is on the INEC side must also agree with what each of the units have produced, whether those ones were encrypted or not. So that's what I'm trying to say. But I agree with what you have suggested.
How have your colleagues received this? Because I know that everybody, we know that an amendment was going to come, or we knew that an amendment was going to come, but we didn't think it was going to come this early. So first, how has this been received amongst your colleagues?
Well, on the floor that day, you can see what happened. Massive support and ovation. In fact, I had to greet my colleagues for their support. Of course, you know, you do your lobby before you push for any legislation in Parliament. But that notwithstanding, right now, more of my colleagues are coming up with ideas like you are coming up with to come up with further amendments to the Act, the Electoral Act 2022. So expect in the next few weeks, I'm chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, so all this must come to my table. So I'm already seeing members, honorable members, coming with further amendments. And I'm seeing a situation where we're going to get like 10, 20, and all of these will be collated together before the public hearing, so that all of these ideas will be presented at the public hearing. And in fact, at the public hearing, INEC will be there. Every civil society stakeholders generally will be invited. So it will be open in the media. So you'll be able to come up with your own opinion of what you think we should do to get a more credible electoral system that would bring a result that will be near the wishes of the people. Our elections must be free and fair and seen to be such. That is my goal. I know that you just clarified that you're the chairman House Committee on Rules and Business. I know that there is a whole committee on electoral matters as well. Right. I'm a little curious as to whether or not the National Assembly thinks, especially the House of Representatives, thinks that it's going to be worth their while to investigate perhaps what went wrong in the last elections. Because, you know, till now, people are still expecting some explanation from INEC, and they think that the people deserve to know, to get a debriefing of what transpired in the last elections. Is this something that the House of Representatives will be able to take on? Okay, you are like giving a suggestion that the House should invite INEC to... I'm not giving a suggestion. To debrief I'm asking, the committee on electoral because, you know, there was a failure somewhere, and INEC did acknowledge that there was a system glitch. That was what they said, where the IREV did not work. Yeah. Is it something that is within the remit of the National Assembly to investigate, to put INEC to task, to say this is how much Nigerian people gave you? I mean, after all, the National Assembly also appropriates money to INEC to ensure that certain things work. Don't you think that the National Assembly can also demand some accountability from INEC? Yes, you're right. We have a constitutional mandate to do all of that, to investigate anything, anybody, any institution in the country. And I believe my colleagues are listening. The chairman of the members of the Committee on INEC and Electoral Matters, this would be an idea for them to rule on. And by the time they, as they keep discussing with me over other matters as chairman rules of business, it will be something I would also suggest. Why don't you bring this on the floor? Of course, there would have to first be a motion by any member, any of the 360 of us in the House of Reps, or any of the 109 in the Senate. There has to be a motion by one of us to say that there's a need to do this investigation, and that motion has to pass on the floor. When that is passed and referred to the committee, that now gives the committee the powers to conduct such an investigation. So that process must be observed. And I believe that as my colleagues are listening, we will get there, because we must, our electoral system must be progressively improved. We must not go backward. We have a sustained democracy for 25 years, and we want to look forward to sustaining it for another 100 and 200 years going forward, so that it becomes better and our people will have confidence in the electoral system. That's the goal.
Well, there are so many other issues to raise. Thank you, Chimole. So many other issues to raise with you, but for the exigency of time, Honorable, let me just ask this one. one of the things that a number of people have worried about is also how cumbersome the recall process for a legislator is in the event that they feel that the fellow is not doing well enough. Is that something that is also being considered, or this is just about the process of getting them into the office and not the process of removing them?
Well, the matter of recall is already provided for by law. Any one of the 360 of the members of the House of Representatives or any of the 109 senators can bring up a proposal to amend the law for recall as presently provided for by the extant legislation. And civil society could also bring about suggestions. But my opinion would be that we consider what happens in other democracies. If you study what we call comparative legislatures, you want to look at what happens in other climes. How different is it from what happens here? So we must not make the process so cheap that every day you have a legislature being recalled, and by the end of a tenure, you have a different set that were elected in the first place. So if I don't like the face of my legislator, or he didn't attend my father's burial, or he didn't send money for hospital bills, or paid my child's school fees, I can just get him out. We must get the process.
But I'm pretty sure, Honorable, my apologies, I'm pretty sure that you understand what I'm saying. Yes, because a number of people have complained that there are certain legislators, they don't want them anymore in the office, but the process of getting them is very, very cumbersome. I'm sure it's something you also think about. Just as one last one, in what way does this process that you are advocating address the issue of voter apathy? You know it exists, you mentioned it earlier, but does it in any way, manner, shape or form address the issue of voter apathy?
Sure, it does. First, when we do re-registration every 10 years, you'll find that voter turnout, the percentage will be so high that voters will now begin to have more confidence in the system, knowing that people are turning out in that sense. But then the issues of voter apathy also have to do with all these issues we are talking about, so that if we cure them, the results of elections will resemble what people voted for. And that will increase confidence, and voter apathy will be dealt with when that happens. Not this time when, after you voted a popular candidate, and then somebody who scored 20 votes will go to court against somebody who scored 50,000 votes, just to look for an avenue, to look for one technicality to remove the popular candidate. And then what happened in the litigations recently, not something to think about. And then this person with 20,000, 50,000 votes, his votes are now being declared wasted by the judiciary, and a man who scored 5 votes is declared winner. It increases this voter apathy thing. That is why one of the legislation I'm bringing forth, one of the amendments, is that any frivolous petition before the tribunal must be faced with huge fines. And those fines in millions of naira should go to the winner, not to the coffers of government. So that next time, if you score 100 votes and you are trying to go to court against somebody who has 50,000 votes, you get ready about 100 million naira to pay for frivolous litigations. So all that will help the issue of voter apathy, where people feel, well, my vote will not count at the end of the day. The judges will decide at the end of the day. That will help to solve the problem.
Honorable Francis Waive, Chairman House Committee on Rules and Business, and also the sponsor of this bill. Thank you for coming on. And it's a matter that we like to also keep tabs on. And hope that it comes to fruition as early as possible.
Oh, sure. That's why I began this early. If you notice, that bill is marked 37.
Yeah.
So I put it in July for first reading, and I waited for the electoral process and the litigation and the rerun to get over before I did the second reading. And I'm grateful to my colleagues that it passed second reading.
Thank you for coming on, and all the best to you.
Thank you. My pleasure. I appreciate it.
We're back in a moment. Stay on with us. Yeah, so
the universities are charging students. It's not ideal. The students are complementing, they are paying charges for the services that the university is offering them. So if we are to limit that 40%, it means that the services that unfortunately the government funding is not covering, for which we ask students to provide in order to help the university to operate, means that we no longer can operate it. But in any case, we thank Mr. President Ahmed Tinubu, for having an understanding that this 40% remittance is something that has already been suspended. What we are arguing and what we are making all the agencies to understand is that the student charges, the collection from student charges is not agile at all. That's what we are arguing.
Yes, indeed, Honorable Philip Agbese joins us next. He is the Deputy Chair, House Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, this allegation from vice chancellors, rectors, provosts who are accusing lawmakers of bribery, corruption, and then we've seen some statements too coming through, but they're quite telling and weighty, probably. Because I know that, several reports out there which talked about a certain payment into a certain bank, 2 million, several things were listed. But I know that the House has put up, some sort of very vocal defense in this matter. But what would you then say to those who say, look, there certainly cannot be a smoke without fire in this particular case?
Well, Chamali, thank you very much. Our country somehow every day is turning into a comedy. Comedy in the sense that people who know, or those who ought to know, and the people that you equally respect as highly placed people intellectually, they begin to, dance to this kind of tune. It becomes alarming. Why am I saying that? These allegations, in quote, are coming from supposed heads of our institutions, university vice chancellors. Of course, vice chancellors in Nigeria are professors, rectors, highly placed academic, in highly placed academic positions, and very well, you raise these issues. Since these issues were raised, that one of our ad hoc committees, embarked on one of our other committees probing job racketeering in the country, invited heads of institutions. And recall that the heads of institutions across the country invited were not just only university vice chancellors. But in this case, the report they are trying to put out is that only university vice chancellors, rectors and provosts were asked, to give bribe. And the question is this. It's very clear, by the provisions of our law, that the giver and the receiver of bribe are guilty. However, the leadership of that ad hoc committee, as it were, petitioned the ICPC and said, these allegations raised against us, we want to be thoroughly probed. So we therefore demand evidence against us. Right.
Are you saying that because it's also out there that Honorable Gagdi, I think he invited them.
Yes.
They appeared. He announced that invitation there. So in light of what you just said.
Honorable Yusuf Gadi, a highly respected member of the parliament, wrote to the ICPC, inviting the ICPC to wade in. Because in the report that we all read, stated that bank accounts were provided and some persons paid money into those
bank accounts.
Yes.
And some people paid 2 million.
Yes, so
each.
So we have requested, and aside that, within the House, we also have the Committee on Ethics and Privileges. that committee is saddled with the sole responsibility of investigating, disciplining even members. And at the moment as I speak, there have not been any single petition against any member. The vice chancellors, they know the right place to channel these allegations to. But aside that, let me just be very frank and honest.
Before you say the next one,
see,
does this mean that the House of Reps will hands off this matter and let the ICPC investigate the matter and come up with whatever they come up with?
Perfectly. We have done exactly that. The Right Honourable Speaker in his legislative agenda has itemized those issues, the issue of fighting corruption within and outside the House. And he has equally, in our own in-house cleaning, he has standard it times without number to members, on the need for good conduct within and outside the Parliament. So as members of the 10th Parliament, I know exactly, what we stand for and individually what we represent. But coming back to university vice chancellors and these allegations, because recently this allegation came up again in respect of TED fund releases. Like I mentioned earlier, university vice chancellors were not the only chief executive officers that were invited to the job racketeering committee. So to a large extent, I don't want to conclude, but universities, colleges of education and polytechnics seems to be more involved in the issue of job racketeering, employment of family members, cronies and allies without due process, employment of family members without recourse to federal character principles. Because this whole thing, other chief executive officers from mining sector, from oil and gas industry, every chief executive officer that has the power to employ people in Nigeria, because that committee that was accused has to do with job racketeering. That is government agencies employing people. So the question that Nigerians should also ask, those who are alleging, were you the only people invited to that committee? How comes the university vice chancellors turned out to be the only people in, supposedly, if bribe was demanded and bribe was given, how comes they were the only people that the committee demanded for bribe, and at the end of the day, how comes they turned out to be the only people who gave out bribe?
Just a moment. You said that the university, beg your pardon now, that you know what the 10th Assembly stands for.
Yes.
And that you also have, sounded a gong of warning to your members.
Yes, our colleagues.
In the National Assembly. And a number of people are wondering, what safeguards have you put in place to ensure that things like this do not happen, even if they're rumored, that they always end up not true?
Well, you see, I want to make this point. Because, you see, when allegations are in the air, and, in journalism practice, best practices all over the world, and even in tandem with the principle of law, fairness and equity, that you cannot listen to one party, right, and conclude. The so-called allegations, the way they were reported in the media, the members were not even given the chance of fair hearing to respond to those issues in their own right. And it has always been that these allegations are carried out, published, and we have to respond to them, just like Channels Television. I want to thank you for the opportunity that you invited us to come and talk about it. Other media platforms just did a report and said, oh, members of the House have asked people for bribe and all of that. Like this recent one that is rearing its head now is the issue of, the committee on TED Fund, the House Committee on TED Fund, and the Senate Committee on Education, inviting the university vice chancellors to look into their 2024 budget issues. And, from nowhere, the allegations are coming up again. It suggests, to a large extent, that there are individuals within the universities and polytechnics, who definitely have something to hide, right? Close to appropriation and finances of the Nigerian people. So. Yeah, because each time the issue of accountability is raised, the next thing we hear from the university vice chancellor, oh, we will not go to the parliament. We will not go to the parliament because when we get there, they are going to ask us to give them bribe. They are going to ask us for this. They are going to ask us for that. But you see, none of us can be wiser than the framers of the Constitution. It is the Constitution, Section 88 and Section 89 of the 1999 Constitution that has given the National Assembly the powers, to oversight agencies and government that will have business with money. The university vice chancellors cannot be smarter than the framers of this Constitution. The public funds that they enjoy these monies, under the provisions of the Constitution. And again, they wake up. Okay, look at Section 80, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution. It says that the National Assembly, that no money, no agency, no entity of government can spend any money if not appropriated, except in the consolidated
The question
account.
I've asked is, what safeguards are you putting in place to ensure that stories like this do not even come up?
It's about the legislative agenda of the House. When you talk about probity, accountability, and transparency, and you intend to take it out, there must be soul searching within, to ensure that members conduct themselves accordingly. And in doing that, in the wisdom of the Right Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, today we have a committee of the House on monitoring of committees. That is to say that when members go out to carry out their oversight functions, they do that, right, in accordance with these rules that we have. And there's also another group within the House, the Legislative Committee on Legislative House Committee on Monitoring and Compliance of the Standing Committees. So they monitor your activities and they report to the leadership of the House. But I want to add, each time we talk about allegations coming from these university vice chancellors, and they know the law very well, and this attempt, to scandalize an institution like the Parliament, I think it is unacceptable. University vice chancellors in Nigeria, we have the records. They have been accused of aiding and abetting election malpractices in the country. Have we stopped them from administering or carrying out their roles and functions in the universities? Have we scrapped the universities? University vice chancellors in Nigeria, our children, our young girls, our daughters, have accused some of these vice chancellors. Some are even before law courts in the country for serious allegations like rape.
Maybe
against
those
the
are
vice chancellors.
Right. Some of them, not all of them.
Against some of them, because we have facts, before law courts, where they have been accused
the law
of
should
rape.
take its course then. If anybody falls let the law take its course.
So what did these people do?
We shouldn't paint everything in one brush.
Exactly.
In this same matter at the same time.
So what did people do when these university vice chancellors engaged in rape? They were reported to the police. So if any member of the Parliament has asked you for bribe, report the member to the police.
All right, Honorable Philip Agbese, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Media and Public Affairs, thank you for coming on. But this matter, of course, as you've said, the ICPC are looking into it, and we are also interested in see how this comes out. So, but up next is business news with Ini John.
Thank you so much, Chamberlain. Good morning, everyone. Well, what a weekend we've had, and spilling over from Saturday to Sunday. But more importantly, this morning, the business community is mourning two very great people. And unfortunately, one of them went along with his family. The Nigerian Exchange Group PLC is deeply saddened to acknowledge the tragic passing of the former chairman, Mr. Abimbola Ogunbanjo, and the group managing director of Access Holdings PLC, Dr. Herbert Wigwe, alongside his wife and son in a helicopter accident in the United States of America. Mr. Ogunbanjo was a visionary leader and luminary, that's in the words of Mr. Temi Popola, in Nigeria's corporate, legal, and capital markets affairs. He served as the president of the National Council of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from 2017 to 2021, and as the first group chairman of NGX Group from 2021 to 2022, following the demutualization of the exchange. His strategic acumen and dedication were instrumental in shaping NGX Group's transformative journey. Sharing in this condolence, the group managing director and chief executive officer of the NGX, Mr. Temi Popola, believes that the passing of both Mr. Ogunbanjo and Dr. Wigwe, a profound loss to the business community and entire Nigerian private sector. They played crucial roles in shaping both the NGX and the financial sector. And Nigeria and the world indeed will sorely miss them. We pray that their soul will rest in perfect peace and God will comfort the family that they have left behind. Well, now we'll move on to the global space. Talking about oil prices, it fell in early Asian trade on Monday after Israel said it had concluded a series of strikes in southern Gaza, slightly easing concerns about supply from the Middle East. Brent crude futures were 31 cents down. Looking at the numbers right there, 0.4%, that's what it amounts to, at $81.88 a barrel. WTI also down, same percentage, at $76.53 for a barrel. And we know geopolitical risks, including a feared broadening of the Israel-Palestinian conflict across the region and potential oil supply disruption in the Middle East, pushed prices about 6% up last week. And also Israeli military has said on Monday that it had conducted a series of off strikes on the southern Gaza that have now concluded days after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected that peace deal that was offered him. And logistics disruption in the Red Sea remain front and center of investors' concern. United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operation Agency has said that it had received a report of ship being attacked by 2 missiles south of Yemen's Al-Muqa. Iran-allied Houthi militants are taking up the responsibility for that. Well, still talking about the oil space, but back here in Nigeria, on Friday, Shell Petroleum Development Company Limited delivered 475,000 barrels of crude oil to the Port Harcourt refinery, marking a crucial step towards its imminent restart after years of inactivity. Now, the Port Harcourt refinery, one of Nigeria's 4 state-owned refineries, has been plagued by years of neglect and disrepair. Its rehabilitation, which began in 2019, is aimed at restoring its capacity to process 210,000 barrels of crude oil every day. A total of 475,000 barrels of oil have been delivered to the refinery. And the NNPC Limited has said it planned to complete test runs at the refinery by the end of January in a major step towards resuming operations 5 years after the plant was shut down. Well, outside the oil space now, the United Kingdom Minister for Business and Trade, Minister Kemi Badenoch, is in Nigeria. She came in yesterday for a 3-day visit to deepen the UK-Nigeria partnership. This follows the former Foreign Secretary's visit to Nigeria in August 2023 and last week's UK-Nigeria security and defense talks. Minister Badenoch's visit will take forward onward efforts by both countries to boost the UK-Nigeria trade relations and unlock new investment opportunities. While in Nigeria, she is expected to meet with, along with Prime Minister's trade envoy to Nigeria, Helen Grant, to have meetings with the federal government of Nigeria, state governors, as well as British and Nigerian business leaders and investors. We do hope to have a word with her later on today, and I think that'll be later. And then we'll ask her a few questions about areas of interest for the UK, and at a time, well, when multinationals are exiting the country, well, how realistic is a visit here? Who's she bringing? What's she assuring them? We'll get to those answers. I believe we'll do that tomorrow because we're meeting her later on today. Back in Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Trade, Industry, Trade and Investment is working to attract investment into the oil, gas and energy sectors with a target of creating over 1.8 million jobs. This was at the forum meeting between the Minister, Dr. Doris Uzokanite, and stakeholders in the special economic zones in Nigeria. She disclosed, as Dr. Anite disclosed, that she used the opportunity to share plans on creating a job center where Nigerians can easily access available opportunities. The meeting was at the Bank of Industry office in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The potentials in the special economic zones in Nigeria have barely been explored. The missing link is a strong focus on collaboration between the public and private sectors. This is the message with the Managing Director of Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority, Mr. Banga Jada, his counterpart in the Bank of Industry, and other stakeholders bring to the Ministry of Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzuka-Nite. Mr. Jada bases his projection on CBN data, which suggests that special economic zones can attract up to $66 billion investment.
Before December, these special economic zones will contribute not less than 3 million jobs into our economy.
We hope that as we continue to unravel the investment potential of the sector, that we will meet the expectations of Nigerians.
Their message is positively received by the minister, who affirms the commitment of the present administration to ease doing business in the oil and gas sector as well as other industries.
The economy, as they say today, is not looking too good because of certain metrics that we've seen. For example, the high exchange rate. But when you have investors who, despite these challenges, are coming forward and putting down investments and putting down money where their mouth is, then it's something for us to actually reckon with. And I always say, if you want to see whether an economy is doing well or not, follow the money. And I know Nigerians may be asking, how do they access these opportunities? So what we are doing is also to create a job center where we can actually put out the opportunities that are available for Nigerians to see and to contact those who are providing these jobs in a matchmaking process. So when you see where the jobs are available, then you can apply, send your CVs, and then get access to the employment opportunities that we are opening up and that we are creating.
The minister assures Nigerians that investors are interested in the country's real sector, and their interest will result in employment opportunities open to all qualified citizens. So, of course, that promise of job centers, we will take the minister on and follow up on that. Very interesting. We know that's what happens in the Western world, but, I mean, hardly do we see such in Nigeria, perhaps because we do not have a lot of employment or job openings available for Nigerians. But we'll follow up with the minister on that now. Last year, British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Richard Montgomery, said that Nigeria has the world's largest electricity deficit that affects about 90 million of the population. Now, on Friday, President Bola Tinubu officially approved the Electricity Act bill of 2024, making it law. According to a statement by Mr. Ajuri Ngalale, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, the bill aims to tackle, if we could have the highlights of that bill, what it hopes to tackle: developmental and environmental issues faced by communities, hosting power generation facilities, and also there you have it. So these are some major focus for that bill, to tackle developmental and environmental issues in host communities. And then 5% of total annual operating expenses of the GENCOs will be used to develop host communities. And the idea is to have a neutral fund manager, to handle this. So what we are asking is if this indeed is going to translate to more supply for electricity, because that's the language that Nigerians understand. But anyways, let's have this conversation with the chairman of West Power and Gas, Mr. George Etomi, joins us virtually from Lagos. Mr. Etomi, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Etomi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. So, I mean, before we even delve into this, it's a sad time for Nigerians, especially the business community. Two great persons that have made a lot of impact passed away on Friday night in the United States. And I know you're close to at least one of them. So, I mean, getting through this is a difficult time indeed.
It's a tough one, I must say. In fact, I was close to both of them. Herbert Wigwe and I were in the G7 group that was advising River State government on investment and coal. And then Mr. Bimbola Ogunbanjo was just literally my brother, because I worked for Chief Ogunbanjo, the only job I ever had. And only about 8 weeks ago, we buried the old man on what would have been his 100th birthday. And Bimbo and I were part of the planning group that made sure we gave the old man a befitting burial. He was a colossus. Both of them were colossuses in their various areas, capital markets, and they will never fade in our memory. It's so sad. Herbert was only 57. Bimbola was only 61. They had so much spunk in them. They had accomplished a lot, but they still had so much more to do. And I can only ask that their souls rest in peace, and that the rest of us should not drop the ball, but continue with the legacies they've richly left behind.
Yeah, may their soul rest in peace indeed. Thank you for that, Mr. Itumi. I will join you in that prayers here from Channels Television. But let's look at the electricity reform now. I did not get a lot of excitement, around the signing into law on Friday by the president. But you are a stakeholder, major stakeholder in the electricity sector. With this bill now, even though we see that it's mostly talking about the host communities, what does this change when it comes to supply, bottom line? Because that's what Nigerians want to know.
Yeah, but I get the point you're making. It does not have what I would call a direct impact on supply. The bill is simply an amendment of the act, the major act itself, to allow for host community, to accommodate the host community, because many of these GENCOs, they generate electricity with huge turbines. Some of them pose risks to the environment, and in many cases, the operations are so humongous. The feeling is that if the communities they serve do not see any benefit, it could be a problem, similar to what you have in the oil and gas sector. So this is simply, in a manner of speaking, simply legislating what would have ordinarily been corporate social responsibility of the GENCOs. But indirectly, it could have an impact in the sense that once the host communities feel that they are catered for, then they will have a strong urge to protect the facilities there. In the past, we used to have flashpoints between host communities and the generating companies. And from time to time, you have disruptions in the activities. But hopefully, this will eliminate it by allowing a certain proportion, as I said, the actual 5% of the actual operating expenses being set aside to be managed by trustees. I mean, there will be issues with regard to the fine details when the time comes. But the spirit behind it is that the government wants a harmonious environment for GENCOs to do their business and for host communities to also feel that these businesses have a positive impact on their lives. It could come through the form of jobs, it could come through the form of actual development of the area. And so many of the things, like I said, were left in the remit of corporate social responsibility is now mandated by law to happen. So to that extent, yes, it will make an impact. But as to the wider issue of the impact on electricity flow, those are still the familiar issues of shortage of gas, how you deal with that, how you deal with the debt issue to gas suppliers, how you ensure that gas which is produced in Nigeria is no longer priced in dollars, so that the practicality of making it available for GENCOs is actually achieved. Those are the bottlenecks. And once you unlock that huge gas potential to power, I can tell you we'll be well on the way to ensure that the electricity industry is stable.
Do we see a change in, for instance, looking at the area of gas supply? We're expecting Dangote to start anytime from now. We are also expecting the Port Harcourt refinery. And I know, we should be able to get gas from this. Does this give a renewed hope in the area of electricity supply through this, the operations of these factories?
Incidentally, sadly, the answer is no, because they are running on very parallel tracks. Those refineries are not producing gas. Gas is actually being produced in the gas fields. Most of the gas fields have been concessioned by the federal government. A lot is being exported by way of LNG. There's very little gas-to-power infrastructure in Nigeria. There are pricing issues. So a lot of these things have to be dealt with at policy levels. And I'm aware that this government is beginning to tackle it. We've parried the issue for quite a while, but now we must begin to answer those big questions. Why do we have so much gas in Nigeria, and yet the gas-to-power infrastructure is so weak, almost non-existent? Why is gas priced in dollars when we need it for domestic use, and it belongs to us? 60% of most of these joint ventures have NNPC participation. And why are gas producers not being paid? A lot of the subsidy you hear about in the electricity sector is actually to subsidize, is actually to pay for debts owed to the gas producers. So those are fundamental issues. And once they're dealt with, and I believe they will be dealt with because of this administration going head on to deal with the problem, we'll begin to see discernible changes in the electricity market.
Right, Mr. George Etomi, thank you so much for your time this morning. Chairman, West Gas and Power and Gas, thank you for your thoughts.
My pleasure.
I'm not concerned now is what is topmost. We've seen a lot of protests in the country in recent times. Over the weekend, I think there was one in Osun State also, and it's not about the cost of living, and food is at the top of that. Well, we have some women who have come together to prefer or suggest some solutions. National Coordinator, Nigerian Women for Agricultural Progress. We're going to be speaking with the National Coordinator, Mrs. Omolara Swemson. She joins us from our Abuja studio. Ms. Omolara, good morning. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I hope you are good too. So, food security, I mean, you don't need to even say a whole lot. We know the need. We see the pressing need. It's on the lip of everybody, anybody who lives in Nigeria. What are the women? What are you guys proposing? What do you have to do differently? I know you've been talking a whole lot about the efforts of the government and if it really goes down to the people who really need it to make a change.
Well, the Nigerian Women for Agricultural Progress, we are all about two things. First of all, we now want to speak with one voice and unity, because what we have done is bring together all farmers, women farmers in the nation under one umbrella. This makes it easier for us to reach out to the government and for government interventions to get to the grassroots farmers. Because one of the major reasons why we are where we are today in terms of food insecurity in the nation is because most, if not all, of the government's intervention has not been getting to the grassroots farmers. And you and I know that the major workforce in the agricultural sector, the entire value chain, is about 70 to 80% of women. So what we are doing is to make sure that the government has access directly to the grassroots women in the entire value chain of agriculture, from farming, cultivation, to post-production, to processing, to packaging, to even trading in the market. That is what NWAP is all about.
Okay, but how do you go about this? Because the government will tell you that, I mean, for instance, last week, the president ordered the release of grains, you know, and it's supposed to go to state governors and reach out. So what do you bring to the table that is different? What else do you have to offer?
Well, what we bring to the table is this. Last week, Tuesday, at the Women International Conference Center in Abuja, we had our conference, our first ever national grassroots farmers conference. And we had in attendance about 1,000 women physically and also about 800 grassroots farmers gathering in their clusters, watching from joining from just one of their children or husbands' Android phone to join the movement, you know, to come together as one voice. You know, what has happened in the past, that would help me answer this properly, is that the government had been working with the grassroots farmers through intermediaries, loads of bottlenecks upon bottlenecks upon bottlenecks. And when because of this, the intervention from the government and all the international agencies has actually not been getting to the grassroots farmers, especially the women. And like I said earlier, without the women in agriculture, there is not going to be any changes, positive changes in our situation when it comes to food security in Nigeria. So we are saying we're the grassroots farmers. Forget all of the packaging your studio has given to me and all of that today. We are grassroots farmers. We had over 150 women in agricultural association in Abuja last week for our conference. We had over 69 local government women farmers represented at our convention last week. These are women that do not understand English. We had to speak in Hausa, Fulani, Nape, Igala, Idome, and all of that, Igbo, Yoruba, to relate with these people. These are actually the women that are cultivating the food that you and I goes into the market to buy. And they're the ones that has been sidelined, that has not been getting any support whatsoever from the government or even the agencies. So what we are saying is, look, government, work directly with these women. Especially now, the low-hanging fruit to solve our problem is to make sure that this intervention gets to the grassroots farmers, the women especially, because the rainy season is approaching. In some parts of the nation, they're still doing dry season farming. But of this season, it's crucial to our survival. If we think that the food is expensive right now in the market, if we don't get it right now, this beginning of season, then we should really buckle up for what is to come in the next 12 months.
Yeah, so I have to tell you, there are other women groups, farmers, you understand, who also say the same thing. How would you expect the government to, because you need to speak, if your group says, we want the government to work directly with us, another group says we want, and then another one, you understand, then the government might just decide to do it on its own. So what's the right approach, a workable approach, when you have, women groups springing up? And we understand this because, of course, women are the majority when you talk about small businesses and farming and all of that.
Well, first of all, the government cannot do it on their own to start with. Let's get that clear. And as I said from the beginning, we are now speaking, what has happened in the past is it's been a sort of divide and rule approach in the agricultural sector. That is why we call ourselves Nigerian Women for Agricultural Progress. And I said earlier, last week convention, we were able, over 150 different women associations in agriculture coming together for the first time in the history of Nigeria to say we are speaking with one voice. We had presidents of ginger, cassava, maize, sesame, chili pepper, shea butter, coconuts. Actually one of our regional coordinator we call her Mama Coconut. So we are coming together in one voice. NWAP is for every woman farmer organization in Nigeria. So we are tired of being divided, because our division is what has brought us to this situation we find ourselves. And you'll agree with me that in agriculture, our strength actually is in our unity and in our numbers. So yes, there are a lot of other women associations, but all of these associations, we are coming together to speak under one voice. What this does is the government is able to work with us, the grassroots farmers, directly without having to say, oh, but we worked with this other group last week, this other group is coming up. That's why we're saying we're speaking in one voice under the Nigerian Women for Agricultural Progress.
So are you talking to maybe Ministry of Agri, or is it the Women's Ministry? Do you have any government ministry that you have reached out to?
Oh, yes. We had reached out to the Minister of Agriculture. We'd reached out as well to the umbrella body. So the way agriculture works in Nigeria, we have the umbrella body, supposed umbrella body for all farmers associations. So all of the associations in Nigeria are supposed to be under the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. We're working hand in hand with them. We've reached out to the ministry, sent out letters to the Minister for Agriculture, Minister for Women Affairs, and even to the mother of the nation, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, to let's come. This is not the time for us to hit the streets and say we're fighting the government, because it is someone that has food in their stomach that can fight, actually. We're saying let us come to the table. If we on our own, the women, without support of the government or anyone or any politician, can bring together, even last week Tuesday we had women farmers with, what do you call them, physical disability. There's a name for them, people with disability, PWD or something like, you know. We had them from as far as Borno State. They came to Abuja with about 4 vehicles. These are farmers that are farming yaji, farmers that are, you know, that are the real grassroots farmers that can make impact in the output of our food production in the nation. So we've reached out to all the necessary ministries that we're supposed to reach out to, but the primary job that we needed to do was to get all of the associations you referred to, Women Farmers Association you referred to, for us to come together in unity, which we have been able to achieve with the convention we had last week. We had also reached out to the nation umbrella body of all farmers association, and we are hoping that with this we'll be able to work with the government to go in the right direction. We can't afford to not get it right with this season that is about to start, the farming season we are about starting.
So the season is of interest. What's the plan? What do you require? What do you want to do? How can we best use this season that's about to start?
Okay, so I say it all the time. The 2 things that Mr. President has done that is in the right direction, first of all, is to admit that we have food insecurity emergency in the nation, problem absorbed. The second thing that the government needs to do is to restructure the Bank of Agriculture. I have been in the agricultural sector as a commodity exporter for about 2 decades now, right? When you work with the Bank of Agriculture that is supposed to be the intervention bank between the government and the people, it needs to be restructured to be a proper agricultural financing institution. You know, and I'll quickly break that down a bit to the best of my knowledge before as time permits. First of all, say for instance, I'm a farmer. I'd approached the Bank of Agriculture that I have a cluster of cassava farmers, and we are in Fashola in Oyo State. We are about 50 of us. We need 10 million naira to cultivate cassava. Bank of Agriculture is not supposed to dole out the money to me. Bank of Agriculture should have a department, procurement department, whatever English name they want to give to it, that can give us all of the inputs, equipment, chemicals that would allow us cultivate the amount of farmland we have listed in our request. And the only money that should be released as part of the loan should be money that would need for like paying laborers, logistics, and all of that. Because where this problem starts is when the government or Bank of Agriculture or AFDB, whatever, doles out money to the intermediaries, association leaders like myself and all, who do not really understand the importance and how to manage these funds, then it is already a failed project from the beginning. But if we have, like some other countries in the world, have a Bank of Agriculture that is actually a real financing, agricultural financing sector, that if a cluster comes to you and say, look, we process kuli-kuli, for instance, and we need 50 million to buy kuli-kuli equipment, the Bank of Agriculture gives them the equipment and they pay back for the equipment. As to the Bank of Agriculture giving them the equipment and expecting these farmers to go source for the equipment and buy it, there is a whole lot that goes wrong in this method or system that we've been using before. So the government needs to work quickly with the Bank of Agriculture, do the restructuring, and make sure they work with the women. I mean, I'm not trying to sound, I'm sounding like a woman. I'm talking reality here. The government needs to work with the women farmers. That's just is the truth. Work with the women farmers, restructure the Bank of Agriculture, make inputs available. It's not rocket science. Myself and the rest of the ESCOs, we do it in our private lives, in our locality, to support our farmers. You know, give them this input. For every grassroots farmer, they have one person in their village that has an Android phone.
All right.
And they do videos and pictures and send back to us what they've done with the inputs or the money that we have given to them. So if we can't do this as private people, why can't the government do it if they work with the right set of people, Nigerian Women for Agricultural Progress in Nigeria, especially if the government is able to restructure the Bank of Agriculture?
All right, so restructuring the Bank of Agriculture is top on your list of requests at this time. Well, thank you so much. We have to thank you so much, Mrs. Omolara Swepson, National Coordinator, Nigerian Women for Agricultural Progress. Good news that the women are working together, but of course, we don't want to leave the men behind, but let's see what the women will come out with. Thank you so much for your time this morning. All right, so unfortunately, we cannot take the markets this morning. In fact, borrowed some of the Sunrise Daily Time. So guys, please, thank you so much for your generosity. You know, women, we talk with passion and we want to feed the nation. So, but back to you guys, Sunrise Daily.
Yeah, what a tournament it was for Nigeria. We still remember those happy memories. They will always be with us, that the Super Eagles left with us. Of course, it didn't end the way we wanted. I mean, it could only go to one team. So yes, to review how this AFCON 2024 panned out, Ida Petisai joins us this morning. Good morning and thank you for coming on today. So, thank you for yes, we didn't lift the trophy, but all the same, what a tournament it was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was unbelievable. 1 month, almost 1 month of pressure, 1 month of football, 1 month of remote control. We've held the remote controls for 1 month now, and it's been beautiful. Yesterday. We know we're coming to yesterday. Yesterday we played. We played a game nobody wanted to play. You know, the silver medal, the worst medal, the silver medal, anyone in the tournament, silver medal. It is the medal you don't want to play for. It is the medal that they give to you. The silver medal is worse than the bronze medal in football.
So the thing about that match yesterday is that quite a number of people expected us to play differently from the way we played. Yes. So have you been in touch with the team or the coaching crew to find out what informed that style of play that we came up with yesterday?
I think the pressure, again, let's not forget we are playing against the home team. We shouldn't forget that. We saw the stadium, 60,000 Ivorians rooting for their team. It was a massive pressure game. And what you tell your wards in a game like this is that they will come with pressure, which we did. We did that in the first 30 minutes. But now you expected after that 30 minutes, we needed to start playing. We got the goal. Fortunately for us, we got that goal. We think a lot of mistakes were made by the coach. But today I told myself it's not a day of criticism. Yes, we'll analyze the game with an open mind, but kudos must go to the team. Just for getting to the finals on its own. We must thank these boys for hyping us up, for making Nigeria proud and getting to where they got to. They game proper. I think they got proper. one or two mistakes were made here and there. And I think that's for critical analysis. You need to look at factors. Ask the coach, why did you change your team? Why is it that when we saw that Iwobi wasn't producing, why didn't you change him? We put so much pressure on Osimhen. Osimhen wasn't delivering at a particular stage. He was hacked down here and there. Why don't you change him early? These are questions where analysts and critical in-lookers will look at and say, why did the coach take such decision?
Well, you know, the thing about that, is that nobody expected this team to go this far in the first place, because the build-up to this tournament, let's not even forget, a lot of the matches that they played, people said, no way. There's no way I'm going to watch AFCON with this team, the way they've been losing and coming to this tournament. Only for them to hear, whoa, first, second, well, after the group stage, semi-final. At least those kind of things usually happen to Nigerian teams. But, of course, when you get to the final, expectations will be high. So one wonders. But does the NFF, I think they have a technical side. So those issues that you raised in the review, do they normally factor that in and then pass on some information to the coaching crew? Or how does it work? Or is it that after this tournament, whatever it is that comes with it goes with the wind? If a new team or new coaching crew comes in, they start afresh?
The coach will do a technical report. There will be a technical report, and that technical report will be submitted to the technical department to look at. But now the question is, where's our technical department? We have Austin Eguavoa, the last time I know, running the technical departments. Austin is looking for transport to even travel to where it's going to. So there's a whole lot of things that are not in order. But as a team, what you do before every game and after every game, before every game, you call your technical team. You sit down with your technical team and say, this and this and that and this and that. Whom do we play? They have a right fullback that is slow. Do we have a player that can counter him? They have a central defense, like what South Africa did to us. They just knew that we had a very slow central defense, and they decided every ball should be jumped behind them for us to run. These are teams that play with a lot of intelligence. We've looked at our coach Pesero, one of the people that said he should be fired because I felt he wasn't technically sound. But he was given a contract to qualify the team to the semifinals, which he did. And I think he deserves another chance because of the terms of his contract. But when you look at our team, we all sat back and we say, this is Jose Mourinho. Mourinho says his best friend. Why are you packing the bus? We have the ability to win games. We have the ability to go forward. Now, the style we played, why leave the 5 men behind? In other games we played, we all saw that Bassi will bump forward, and we saw that Aina will bump forward, and they put a lot of pressure on our opponents. But yesterday, we didn't do that. We all defended. We had Onyeka defending. We had Iwobi can't defend. He can't defend. He likes to throw those passes. But instead of having an opportunity to play, he can't play. So once he holds the ball, there are no runners. Nobody's running on the left. Nobody's running on the right. So where would he throw those passes? So these are technical things for technical people. Overall, they will say we lost the game. And again, I still say it. We didn't expect them to get here. But the truth about it is that you gave us ice water and we wanted ice cream. That's just it is. We wanted a little bit of taste. We were in the desert. You gave us water. Give us ice water or ice cream, something, top it for us. And they didn't do that for us.
Well, some people will disagree. As you said, we didn't expect to come this far. The very fact that we did should be enough icing for us. At least there's ice there. Whether ice water or ice cream, there's ice.
No ice. No, this one is not ice cream. They didn't give us anything.
No cream here.
Let me tell you how this thing works, okay? When you get to the semifinals and lose, if you lose, there's the 3rd place to play for. So you see most teams say, okay, let's get something here. Now, when you get to the finals, the only thing you need to play for is the trophy. Now, the silver medal becomes useless because you are not playing for it. It's given to you. You see, silver is given to you. Third place, you play for. The gold, you play for. That's why in football, we say the silver is the most useless medal because you don't play for it.
I would disagree with you. When we resumed this morning, when we started the show this morning, you said, well, silver is better than bronze. Well, I hope you've heard now.
Football,
if there's anything I have loved about this tournament, it's been the conversation on social media. It's been how, you know, they talk about dragging. I mean, if you see Nigerians trying to comfort themselves now, you hear things like, the cup is not even fine. You hear things like, you know, we only went to that tournament to, you know, to beat South Africa and drag Ghana. You know, those kind of things. So at the end of the day, because it's supposed to be about uniting the continent, would you say on the whole, have we been, never mind that very ugly, you know, situation we nearly had when Nigeria was about to play South Africa, and, you know, the fact that there was a warning against how Nigerians should celebrate should we beat South Africa. Apart from that, on the whole, would you say that the tournament is achieving its aim of uniting a continent?
Thank you for this question. Beautiful tournament. You know, we must give it to the Ivorians. At the end of the game, I had a viewing center, and everybody turned around and said, Ida, if not you, this lose, if we like to lose, after spending $1.5 billion, that's what they spent to host this tournament. How would we have felt if we were hosting with 60,000 president and his wife? No sentiments. But again, we must credit this tournament. It's been one of the best we've had. In every tournament we've had, we've complained of referees, we've complained of bad pitches, we've complained of hotels. These are the basic things that cost the transport, even with transportation. But with all the reports that has filtered in, it's been the best tournament that they're even asking the Europeans to come and see how the VAR is used. In this tournament, the VARs are not used because they want to check controversy. Every time the referee is called to come and check the VAR, he comes because there's a cogent reason, and he never changes his mind. And most times, he takes decisions and allows the game to flow. Great refereeing in this tournament. The pitches were fantastic. We didn't have any issue with pitches. They were watered out when they were supposed to be watered, and the stadiums were in top-class conditions. The tournament was, for me, fantastic. You know, thank God for social media. Social media exposes these things you don't want to see. But this tournament has been one of the best. We must give it to the Ivorians. And I think the trophy they won just put the ice cream on the ice for them. For us, for us, we will manage the silver because we never expected.
Yeah, but the unification part, the part where Africans get to know themselves better, the part where, you know, we value one another even more. Would you say the tournament is achieving that?
It has, but you know, when it concerns football, there's no kind of unity. In football, it's your nation's pride is at stake. So would I want to share my pride with South Africa? No, I want to beat them. I want to beat Ghana. We are brothers. The Ghanaians will say we are brothers. But we don't want to share glory with you. But basically, it unites us, yes. The whole world. Some years ago, Jurgen Klopp, the coach of Liverpool, said, called our AFCON, called this some, I don't want to mention it on TV, called this some crazy name. And he was attacked vehemently because he disregarded our AFCON. All of a sudden, the world, I heard this, and this is for sure, that China, people in China were watching AFCON. We didn't watch the Asian Cup because it was almost irrelevant. But the eyes are on Africa because we're producing week in, week out. We're producing superstars. So people are paying attention to African football. And this Nations Cup has given us a kind of relevance that our football is real. The games were fantastic. The football was at high level. There were surprises. It was a great tournament. Well, if you say unity, I think it united Africa.
So what about coming back home here in terms of what we have always talked about, organization, putting our house in order, such that we can benefit from this billion-dollar industry? Because do we have a 65,000 capacity stadium, for instance?
Well, maybe in Abuja. I think we have one in Abuja. The one in Uyo is about 40. Chamberlain, I will be president of NFF one day. I will be president. And the changes we want, I will bring it. I contested. There's a lot of things that are not right in our football, and it pains us. For those of us that love this game dearly, we want to serve. We want to serve. We want to give our knowledge. I've been in football for 35 years of my life. Played for about 25 or thereabouts. So I want to give back to this game. What I state level, the truth about it is they look at us as threat. You come to your state and you say, listen, I'm available. I want to serve. No one is talking to you. You come to the national level. And maybe because I'm a Christian, the Bible says the violent takes it by force. So we'll take it by force and bring changes to our football.
Yeah. Ayo.
Mr. Peterside, it is very understandable. Mr. Peterside, it is very sentiments that you are expressing here. I wanted to ask a number of questions about the game itself, but let me speak to developmental issues. One of the questions a number of people have raised, looking at the South Africa team, you spoke about it the last time, how that they are a good team, but they don't have star players, and we had that edge. A number of people have also spoken to that about the Ivorian team, a very good side, played well, but then maybe they don't have as many superstars as we. I like you to speak to the football culture in Nigeria. Do you think we ever had a signature look, a signature style, so to speak, for our football? And if we did we lose it? If we never did, do you think we need one? Because there's an identity for Brazilian football, for instance. Do you think we need something like that? Or do we have something like that we lost?
Okay, let me make it a little bit lighter for us. When we were young, you would hear this ayo, ooh. That's our culture. It's as simple as that. That ooh, they are shouting is that this ball is moving around. Shego Degwami to Alosho Satebu, Alosho to Adokia Mesmaker, you could see functionality. Even if you watched our game yesterday, we are playing like the Portuguese. That's what he knows. Normally, we would play with our wingers, we would play where our midfielders would spread the ball. I think this was where we met yesterday. I arranged this in Port Harcourt yesterday at the mall. And thousands of people. That's the kind of love. This is bigger than a political rally. It is the love that we have for the game that is pulling out these people from their houses. So we have this culture. Imagine that we are passing the ball 1-0, and you hear, ooh. It spoils the players. But now we don't have this football culture anymore. Our tradition of playing what we know. That's why everybody's complaining. Even I see Chamberlain is saying our tactics. I didn't know Chamberlain need tactics, but because it's embedded in your heart that our leagues play like this, our younger players play like this, the women play like this. But now, what we had all through this tournament was in Nigeria. We couldn't put 6-7 passes in the foreign team and support Arsenal. When Arsenal is playing, they'll have ball possession. How can Ivory Coast have more ball possession than us? It's never done. We play. We are ballers. We play football. But what we saw were just some determined men that wanted to make the country proud, and again, we say kudos to them.
Well, that thing that you just said now, it resonates with a number of people. Unfortunately, it would seem like the ball possession thing was against us most of quite a number of times in this tournament. Because even against South Africa, it seems that we had less percentage of ball possession than they did, and all of that. What could be responsible for that, and how do we reverse it? One of the things that I remember about our football in Nigeria, this days back decades, I'm sure you are very well aware, is that when teams play together over a long time, they form, so to speak. That was the advantage that the 1980 Green Eagles at the time had. And the Segun Adegbamis, the Christian Chukwus and everyone. That was the advantage that they had. And some would also still reference the debut Golden Eaglets and what they did at the time, how that it was because they played together for quite a length of time. How significant is that? And do you see that time coming back for us? Because that's one of the advantages that the South African team boasted that they had.
We need to have a structure. If what like we had years ago, not just 80, we got it in 1994, 1996. Now it starts with the home-based culture. Look at the players that played in 1996, even the World Cup in 2013. You would see Stephen Keshi came back and brought 4 home-based players that played in that game. So they have a culture where you feed from that. The Brazilians, we all know that Brazilians will play the samba kind of football. We know that the British will always play fast football and just drop the ball. That's how they play. Now we're playing the Portuguese version of Jose Mourinho, where we pack the bus. Well, Jose Mourinho packs the bus. He's Portuguese. So that's what we're playing now. But this is not our style. We need somebody. Look at Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast fired their coach. Well, the coach resigned, if I would say. Resigned when they didn't qualify. They brought their own home-based coach that knew the culture of the people. All of a sudden, everything changed. He would have said to them, what are you people, where are you running to? Pass the ball. Pass the ball. Every time you play football, the coaches will say to you, deny the opponent time and space. Deny the opponent time and space. And who holds the ball wins the game. Everybody's looking for one ball. So knock it around, play it around, and you get results. We don't have that kind of culture. You know, a lot of people have asked me yesterday, the coach got to the finals. What do you think? I said, fire him.
Maybe food for thought at that point. We'll see what happens moving forward. But at least we appreciate the boys. They did what they could. I mean, what a tournament it was. So the experience will live with them forever. Because I'm sure they all wanted to win as well. So nobody will get to the final and want to lose. So we appreciate them. And I appreciate you as well, too, for talking to us always. So thank you for your time again today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so some messages coming through. Festus says about the electronic transmission of results, of election results, cannot guarantee efficient, secure, cost-effective, and engaging elections. Only our politicians can guarantee efficient, secure, and cost-effective elections if they play by the rules and stop making our elections a do-or-die election.
I agree with you 100%, Festus. Well, take a look at this one from Adekunle Dada. It says, when we talk of using NIN for voting, we must also take note of the fact that more than 90% of Nigerians only have the temporary paper card and not real card with chips that expires after 5 years. Well, that's a national ID card, but that's not the NIN. The NIN doesn't expire. It's just a card that expires. You have the NIN for life.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That certainly doesn't nullify, asking for the NIN.
Yeah, yes. Joshua is speaking in the same light about the NIN, but this is what he says. I think the lawmakers should also propose linking the voter card with NIN. I think that's part of what question Chamberlain asked the other time. With your thumbprint, you should be able to vote, and the issue of accreditation eliminated.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think moving forward, those are the things we should do to save cost. Because we say we don't have money in this country. We need to save and save and save and do the right things and plug the leakages. Well, that is the show today. Thank you all, including the Super Eagles, too. Well done, boys. We'll see you next time. I'm Chairman Onosol. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching. Here's wishing you have a productive week.
Yeah.
I'm Mal Welcome, Yusuf.
Number 2 is still better than number 3. I'm Aya Makede. Do have a wonderful rest of your day and week.